Is the financial crisis over, or are we on the brink of economic disaster? This question echoes around the world, bouncing off the walls of Wall Street and reverberating through the crumbling economies of Europe. The global financial collapse, a catastrophe that unfolded right before our eyes, left no corner of the globe untouched. It was a disaster that left us questioning the very foundations of our economic systems. The Occupy Wall Street movement, a response to the crisis, saw thousands of people take to the streets, their voices loud and angry. They were not just protesting the greed and corruption of the financial system, but also the inequality and injustice that this system perpetuated. The movement was a symbol of the frustration and despair felt by many as they watched their livelihoods evaporate, their dreams shatter. Across the Atlantic, Europe's economy was in freefall. Countries that had once been pillars of economic stability were now teetering on the brink of collapse. The euro, once a symbol of unity and strength, was now a reminder of the fragility of economic systems. The fear was palpable, the anger tangible. This fear and anger were not confined to Wall Street or Europe. It was a global phenomenon, a shared experience that transcended borders and cultures. From the bustling markets of Asia to the quiet towns of the Midwest, people were asking the same question. How did we get here? How did our economic systems fail us so spectacularly? The answer to that question is complex and multifaceted, involving a web of factors that span decades, if not centuries. But at its core, it's a story of unbridled greed and unchecked power, of a system that prioritized profits over people. As we navigate through this narrative, we'll delve into the origins of the crisis, the responses to it, and the ramifications that continue to ripple outwards. We'll explore the strength of the dollar, the 2008 financial crisis, the growing sense of unease, and the Bretton Woods system, among other themes. This is the question on everyone's lips: is the financial crisis over, or are we headed towards economic disaster? What determines the strength of a nation's currency? An intriguing question that takes us deep into the heart of economics. The power of a nation's currency is intrinsically linked to the strength of its economy. The stronger the economy, the stronger the currency. This is because a robust economy instills confidence in investors, encouraging them to invest in that country's currency. Consider the American economy, a titan in the global arena. It is no coincidence that the US dollar is one of the most powerful currencies in the world. The American economy's strength, which is underpinned by its diverse industries, innovative technology, and vast consumer market, has bolstered the dollar, solidifying its status as a global reserve currency. However, the dollar's journey has not been without its twists and turns. Let's rewind to an event that forever changed the course of the dollar's history. The year was 1971, a year of significant economic decisions. The then president, in a move to protect the dollar from speculators, directed the Secretary of the Treasury to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets. This decision meant that the dollar was no longer tied to the value of gold, marking the end of the gold standard. This move was not taken lightly. It was a strategic decision designed to maintain monetary stability and serve the best interests of the United States. The aftermath of this decision saw the dollar become a fiat currency, backed not by physical commodities but by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. This shift had profound implications, not just for the dollar, but for the global economy. It ushered in a new era of monetary policy, where the strength of a currency was no longer tied to gold, but to the economic performance of a nation. So, as we look back, we can see that August 15, 1971, will stand as an important event in economic history. It was the day the strength of the dollar and every other currency became intrinsically tied to the strength of its economy. In 2008, the world experienced one of the greatest financial turmoils in history. This was not a simple case of market volatility or economic downturn, but a catastrophic collapse of colossal financial institutions that had stood tall for decades, even centuries. The pillars of the global economy were not just shaking, they were crumbling. In the United States, investment banking giants like Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns fell like dominoes. In the United Kingdom, Northern Rock was nationalized. Across the world, banks that once seemed invincible were suddenly on the brink of collapse. The financial sectors were in chaos, and the chaos was spreading. The crisis was like a wildfire, quickly spreading beyond Wall Street and the City of London. It reached into the homes of ordinary people, who found their savings wiped out and their livelihoods threatened. Unemployment soared, homes were repossessed, lives were turned upside down. In response to the crisis, governments worldwide sprang into action. They issued massive bailouts and stimulus packages in an unprecedented attempt to keep the world economy afloat. In the United States alone, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or TARP, authorized expenditures of over $700 billion. These were drastic measures for drastic times. The goal was not just to rescue the banks, but to prevent a complete collapse of the global financial system. It was a high-stakes gamble, with the future of the world economy hanging in the balance. And to a large extent, it worked. The global economy did not collapse, the banks were stabilized, and the financial system was saved from total disaster. The global economy recovered much quicker than most predicted. For a while, it seemed like the worst was over. But as we know now, the crisis was far from over. It was merely the beginning of a new era of financial uncertainty. And while the world did eventually return to some semblance of normalcy, it was a new kind of normal, a fragile, uncertain normal. The global economy recovered much quicker than most predicted, and soon it was back to business as usual. But the scars of the 2008 financial crisis are still with us. A reminder of the fragility of the global financial system and the potential for disaster that lies just beneath the surface. Despite recovery, something still isn't quite right. A subtle current of unease flows under the surface of our everyday lives. It's not just the economists or the financial pundits who feel it. It's palpable in the air, whispered in the hushed conversations of ordinary people. In the world of finance, in the realm of politics, in the spheres of education and healthcare, even in the sanctity of our homes, cracks are beginning to show. In the bustling city streets, in the quiet rural towns, a question hangs heavy in the air. It's a question that, despite its simplicity, holds profound implications. Why, people ask, if we've supposedly recovered from the financial crisis, does everything still feel so unsettled? This feeling isn't confined to the United States. It's a global phenomenon. From the cobblestone streets of Europe to the bustling metropolises of Asia, people are feeling the pinch. They're asking the hard questions and coming up empty-handed. Why, despite the billions pumped into economies, are so many still struggling? Why, despite the promises of recovery, does the future still seem so uncertain? There's a sense that the systems we've trusted for so long are starting to falter. The structures that have held us up, that have guided us, are showing signs of wear and tear. It's as if the pillars that have held up our world are cracking, and we're all collectively holding our breath, waiting for the inevitable collapse. But what if, instead of a collapse, we're on the precipice of a transformation? What if these cracks and this unease are not the signs of an ending, but the birth pains of a new beginning? What if this isn't the end of the road, but a bend in the path leading us somewhere new? What if the crisis isn't the cause of the angst so many of us feel, but rather the symptom of a much deeper problem? Our story begins in 1944 with the creation of a new financial system. As World War II was drawing to a close, representatives from 44 allied and associate countries gathered in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, for a monumental undertaking. Their goal: to construct an international monetary framework that would stabilize the world after the war. This was the birth of the Bretton Woods system. Before Bretton Woods, the global economy was a chaotic landscape where exchange rates fluctuated wildly and economic crises were a frequent occurrence. The delegates at Bretton Woods sought to bring order to this chaos. They aimed to create a system that would promote economic cooperation and stability, thereby preventing future economic catastrophes. The cornerstone of the Bretton Woods system was the decision to fix global exchange rates to the US dollar. Why the US dollar, you might ask? Well, at the time, the United States was the world's largest economy and held the majority of the world's gold reserves. Thus, the US dollar was seen as a stable and reliable choice. This decision had far-reaching implications. It meant that all countries participating in the Bretton Woods system had to maintain their currency values within a fixed exchange rate margin with respect to the dollar. Moreover, the US dollar was now the world's reserve currency, meaning it was held by other governments to pay international debts and influence their domestic exchange rates. The Bretton Woods system played a pivotal role in shaping the global economic landscape in the post-war era. It was instrumental in fostering international economic cooperation and growth. But like all systems, it was not without its flaws and challenges. Fast forward to 1971, President Richard Nixon suspended the convertibility of the US dollar to gold, effectively ending the Bretton Woods system. This move was a response to various economic pressures, including the dwindling US gold reserves. The dollar was chosen because back then it was as good as gold. And while gold may have lost its shine, the legacy of the Bretton Woods system continues to cast a long shadow on the world of international finance. So where do we go from here? The future of the economy hangs in the balance, teetering on the precipice of immense potential and daunting challenges. As we move forward, we must acknowledge the reality of our current economic state and the obstacles that may lie ahead. The first challenge is the sustainability of our current economic model. With increasing debt levels and persistent economic inequality, it's clear that our current system is under strain. We need to ask ourselves, is it time to rethink our model? Should we be considering alternative economic models that prioritize sustainability and equality? Secondly, the digital revolution is transforming the way we conduct business and manage our economies. Cryptocurrencies, artificial intelligence, and blockchain technology are just a few examples of advancements that are reshaping the economic landscape. These technologies offer exciting possibilities, but also present new challenges in terms of regulation, security, and accessibility. Lastly, the ongoing threat of climate change cannot be ignored. As we've seen with recent natural disasters, the economic impact can be devastating. Addressing climate change will require significant economic investment, but it also presents opportunities for innovation and growth in green technologies and renewable energy sources. So, how do we navigate these challenges? The key lies in education and preparation. We must strive to understand these complex issues, engage in open dialogue, and create policies that are both proactive and adaptive. We need to prioritize financial literacy, giving people the tools to understand and navigate the economic world. Moreover, we must foster innovation, encourage entrepreneurs and businesses to develop solutions to these challenges. Whether it's a new digital currency, a sustainable economic model, or a breakthrough in green technology, innovation will be the driving force behind our economic future. Lastly, we must not underestimate the power of collective action. When we come together, we can effect significant change. This could mean supporting policies that address economic inequality, advocating for digital inclusivity, or making lifestyle changes to combat climate change. The road ahead is uncertain, but with understanding and preparation, we can navigate it together. Let's recap the key points discussed in this video. We began with an exploration of the global financial collapse, an event of such magnitude that it has left indelible marks on our economic landscape. We saw how the strength of a nation's currency is contingent on the robustness of its economy, and how the US dollar, being backed by the strongest economy in the world, has been perceived as a global reserve currency. Moving forward, we delved into the financial crisis of 2008, a year that witnessed markets crashing worldwide and stalwart financial institutions teetering on the brink of collapse. Governments around the globe responded with bailouts and stimulus packages, keeping the world economy afloat and leading to a recovery quicker than most anticipated. However, despite this recovery, we noted a growing sense of unease. There's a palpable angst, a feeling that something isn't quite right. This sentiment pervades not only the financial realm, but all facets of modern life, suggesting that the crisis may not be the cause of this unease, but rather a symptom of a much deeper problem. We then took a step back in history to understand the Bretton Woods system. In the twilight of World War II, the Allied nations convened at Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to establish a new financial framework designed to stabilize the world post-war. The US dollar was chosen as the world's reserve currency, a decision rooted in the belief that the dollar was as good as gold. In sum, we have traced the trajectory of our financial system from the global financial collapse to the current sense of unease, and delved into the historical underpinnings of the dollar's dominance. Understanding these economic trends and events is key to navigating our future.